what you have to do. That's what you have to do.
You're rolling?
Okay. And you already got your white balance and everything?
Sure did.
Yeah, okay. All right. Zach, welcome to Texas.
Thank you for having me. I've never been here. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry it's such a brief visit.
Yeah, just in and out. People ask me, how is Texas? I say, well, the insides of their hotel rooms are very nice.
And the airport is big.
The airport is very large.
Well, let's talk about Garden State because I must tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I judge a movie by, when I'm looking at something, I know that 20 years from now, something will trigger a certain visual image from Garden State. One is this poster behind us.
Yeah.
And the quarry, everything about the quarry, and the ark at the quarry, and the motorcycle with the sidecar. I mean, just talk to me briefly about the motorcycle with the sidecar. How did you get that into the script?
Well, you know, I've always liked motorcycles. I've never really rode one when I was in my life, but every time I saw one with a sidecar, I thought it was so funny. There's just something about, I can't really describe it. It's just sort of the visual of a motorcycle with a sidecar that made me laugh, and the fact that whoever was in the sidecar was sort of, you know, subservient to the person who was driving it. I don't know. It just always made me giggle, and so I wanted to do something with that. And then I liked the idea of it being an old, old like World War II relic that his grandfather had given him, and that was how he navigated his way through suburbia. And
then the quarry. Now, how did all of that scene develop when you were writing it?
Well, that quarry is actually 3 blocks from my father's house. And not the abyss part of it, we added that digitally, but the actual expansive space was there. And so as a kid, I always used to go there and run around. We weren't supposed to be in there, but it was where your backlight fizzed.
Right. So, let's see, we were talking now about the quarry.
Yeah.
Okay, so the quarry was inspired by one that is
It was
near your
inspired
home.
by the real place, and just like in the film, they were always in a legal battle over where they could build condos there. And since we've shot there, they've lost the battle, and now it's no longer exists, and it's all aluminum-sided condos, unfortunately. But I wanted to take that ideology and put it into the movie.
Throughout the film, there is a recurring theme of that we should be what we want to be. And was that kind of where you started when you started writing the...
I was going through a lot of things in my 20s that sort of hit me by surprise. I didn't realize, it feels like your entire adolescence leads up to, being able to drink legally at 21. You're not prepared for anything after that. That just seems like the penultimate goal, is to get a driver's license that says you can drink legally, which is so silly in hindsight. But so once the dust settled and I graduated college and I began my real life, quote unquote, I got really lost and was confused and didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, even though I had aspirations of being a filmmaker for a long time. And so the themes that go into the character and they're in the film are things that I was dealing with in my 20s. I started to think of it like my teen years had been my body's puberty, but my 20s felt like my mind's puberty. And as I was dealing with a lot of these emotional feelings and feeling depressed and confused and lonesome, I thought, well, let me seek out my peers and see if a lot of them are going through the same things. And in fact, I found so much of that these women had even written a book called The Quarter Life Crisis. And I thought, wow, I'm going through my quarter life crisis. So that was the impetus for the story.
Did you have a happy childhood?
I did. I had a very happy childhood. My parents divorced at a young age, but pretty amicably, and I actually have a great relationship with my folks. But everyone can draw upon the sad times in their life to write something about, which is what I did.
The character that Natalie Portman plays, Sam, and she's such a free spirit, and it's wonderful to see her in this kind of role.
Natalie let loose for the first time is the way I think of it. I mean, she's most famous for the Star Wars films, but she isn't really given a chance to show how talented she is in those movies. I think you have to go back to roles she did as a child, like Beautiful Girls and The Professional. And this role is really the first time as a woman that she really gets a chance to just be free and uninhibited, and I think she really shines.
When you wrote the character, was that kind of your dream girl that you put into that character?
I think so. I think there's a universal male fantasy of finding, all of a sudden one day you're going to come around a corner and there'll be this girl who'll stand out and be so eccentric and so different from every other person you've ever met. So what I wrote was the ultimate version of that. Obviously beautiful, but not, but girl next door-y kind of beautiful, and just really smart and intelligent and funny, which I find to be one of the most attractive things about women, and it's just someone really unique that stood out and was optimistic and hopeful, which is something which was the counter to where Large was.
Were you pleased that they chose that scene for the poster?
Yeah, I had a hand in it. There were lots of different choices and lots of different cooks in the kitchen. Once we got bought by 2 different studios, so we had lots of different people's 2 cents. But I really thought it summed up the movie in a way. It's really about wanting to primal scream off a crane in the rain.
Wearing garbage
Although
sacks.
the rain isn't in that for some reason, but yeah.
When I was watching the movie, and very early into it, I did know that you were the writer-director, and I saw you as the star. And I just kept thinking, this is the new Woody Allen. And then, afterwards, I found out you actually had been in a Woody Allen movie.
Yeah.
So was he your role model?
Of course. I mean, I think he's the penultimate hero of someone who's trying to do what I want to do. He tells, I have to speak mostly of the movies I saw when I was growing up, which are my favorites, the ones like Manhattan and Annie Hall. He, in a very clever, funny way, I felt took the temperature of what was going on in his social circles in Manhattan, in his age group. And that's what I aspired to do with this, was to say this is what, not for everyone, obviously not everyone could relate to what Woody Allen was writing about in Manhattan, but a lot of people could. And I guess what I was saying is not for everyone, but I want to write what it feels like for me to be a 20-something in this day and age. And so, of course, he's a hero. And the fact that he's so respected that every actor wants the chance to work with him, I would love to have that shot.
From the time you...
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm just going to fine-tune something.
From the time you first got the idea for Garden State until you started shooting it, how much time lapsed?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I had pieces of the script when I was in college, and I graduated film school in '97.
Where was that?
I went to Northwestern University in Chicago. And then I was, getting work as an actor and waiting tables, and I was waiting tables out in Los Angeles. And when I got cast in Scrubs. So I immediately quit my job, and I found out the next day that we wouldn't be shooting the pilot for Scrubs for 4 months. So of course there I was without a job and sort of panicking a little bit. And I said, you know what, this is it, enough procrastinating. These are like a free 4 months. The powers that be have given me to sit down and just write this. So I had it in lots of pieces, but when I sat down over those 4 months, in 2001, I wrote the first draft, and we made it last year. So.
Then, when you wrote it and you were shopping it around, how many rejections did you get?
All.
Really?
Yeah, I think everyone with an office and a phone in Los Angeles passed on it. Some of them weren't even filmmakers; they just passed on it. It was very hard. The film, as you know, doesn't follow a traditional 3-act structure. I wanted to make a film that really, to me, felt like what it felt like to come home. So I wanted it to be like the camera's almost a parrot sitting on the main character's shoulder. So it's almost, it trails this circuitous, haphazard way in which he goes around suburbia. In a way, I think of it sort of like a Wizard of Oz-like journey through suburbia, you know? And so it doesn't, I would introduce characters that wouldn't come back, and a lot of them were confused. They would say, how come, you know, where did this character go? And I said, well, when you go home, you run into people. They don't always come back in your third act, you know? I really just wanted to write it like I experienced going home. And so I was given a lot of notes that were from every place. They would often like the script, but they would say, this is what we want you to do to it. And I most often didn't agree with their notes. I thought they were making it just like every other movie. So I held strong to not change it. And in the end, and there were a couple people who were very interested, and then they trailed off and strung us along a little bit, and then they passed. And at the end, we were left with all our eggs in one basket, which was this financier, independently wealthy guy who was looking to get into film financing. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you can get the budget as low as you possibly can, I'll pay for the whole thing out of my pocket. So we did do that, and he did.
So what was the budget?
$2.5 million.
You're kidding.
No, which for those people who don't know is pretty much as low as the amount of money as you can make a movie for and shoot on film and be on location. You know.
And to have the cast you had.
Yeah, but I mean the cast wasn't the money. By the way, the cast loved this script. All the actors took the least amount of money you can legally pay actors. I paid them because that was the only way we could do it. Obviously, I couldn't pay any of these wonderful actors what they're worth. And the music, I couldn't pay any of the wonderful. As you know, music is very important to the film, and I wanted to get music like Simon and Garfunkel and Coldplay and lots of new up-and-coming bands, and we never would have been able to afford most of them. But again, they responded to the script, and I showed them the movie, and they were generous and let me have their songs for nothing.
We have to talk a moment about Scrubs because
Yeah.
we're the NBC station.
Of course, NBC.
NBC Universal.
Yes.
Yes. Our new building.
Right.
Last night you had kind of a retrospective.
Yeah.
Did you get to see any of it?
I didn't, because I was at a screening here at the Magnolia Theater of Garden State, but it was really cool because, you know, we moved around so much last season. I know that was very frustrating for the fans, and you can imagine how frustrating it was for us. I think NBC didn't really know what to do with this reality craze, and they were juggling lots of shows, and no one thought that reality TV was going to take off like it has and is continuing to. So they kept moving us around, but we're confident. They're telling us now we're going to be on at 9:30 on Tuesday nights, which I believe is 8:30 here in Texas. So that's good, but it was great. You know, Thursday night is the most watched night of television. So to have the network show 4 episodes of Scrubs in a row, along with some previews for Garden State, I felt like the spokesperson for the network last night or something.
So you will go into your, fifth?
No, we're starting our fourth season.
Fourth season.
Yeah.
Into your fourth season. Any major changes that you know of?
I don't know of many other than that Heather Graham is joining the cast. That's the only big news I know. She's going to be on this whole season playing a psychologist in the hospital, I believe.
And JD is going to be eyeing her.
I imagine that JD will find her attractive, if there's any method acting involved. I can't imagine, knowing the kind of women that JD likes, that he won't fall for Heather Graham. But other than that, I really don't know. You know, we go back to work first week of August, so I'll find out soon enough what's going to happen to me. But I never know until I show up.
Well, when it comes on, our newsroom, as much as a newsroom can, grinds to a halt when Scrubs comes on.
That's great.
So,
well, we have so much fun making the show, and it's really rewarding to know that people respond to it so much. Because for us, whenever we're filming it, we feel like, well, we're making each other crack up. Hopefully, other people in the country will laugh too.
And I guarantee people, when they go to see Garden State, they will have a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. So
I hope so.
I just wish you the continued success, because you're already having success with all the festivals that
Yes.
have honored you. So, and I look forward to your next film and your next visit.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Zach. Great.
It's a beautiful ring you have.
Oh, thanks.
Might have to back the light on the shot. Okay, Doc, you're right. You can go more slow.
You rolling?
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, is Woody Allen your hero?
He's definitely someone that I look up to. He's someone that I...
Okay, let me do that again. As a filmmaker, is Woody Allen your role model?
He's definitely someone that I look up to.
How did you come to put the motorcycle with the sidecar in your script, in your film?
There's something about motorcycles and sidecars that always made me laugh.
Okay. Did you have some say about the poster?
Yeah, there were a lot of options. We had a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and
Why was this particular scene chosen for the poster?
I thought it best summed up the tone of the movie. It's the primal scream.
This is your first film. You're the writer, the director, the star. What kind of an experience was this for you? Difficult?
It was hard sometimes, sometimes very overwhelming.
Let's see. Did you have a happy childhood?
I did. I mean, my parents divorced when I was 8.
What kind of feelings and what kind of emotions were you trying to get into this film?
I wanted to make a film that took the temperature of what it felt like to be a 20-something.
And let's see. What was your budget for the film?
$2.5 million.
You're kidding.
No, I mean it's amazing. All the actors did it for no money.
The character Natalie Portman plays is such a free spirit. Was she kind of your dream girl growing up?
In a sense, I think I probably wrote my dream girl, yes.
I think that'll get it.
Okay.
$1 million.
And who are the stars of that?
Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst.
Well,